listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. This podcast is all about expanding the conversation around infidelity. I'm a relationship coach, and I specialize in helping people who are having affairs make decisions about how to move forward that are truly right for them. On this show, we feature tools and guidance from my coaching practice, as well as advice from other professionals whose work pertains to the sometimes complicated business of romantic relationships. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with private investigator Art Tilis. Art is the owner of Foglight Investigations, a licensed and insured San Francisco-based private investigation firm. Art has over a decade of experience with the San Francisco Police Department, including several years as a detective. Art holds a Bachelor of Science degree from San Francisco State University and was a pitcher in both college and semi-pro baseball. He is fluent in English, Russian, and Ukrainian with moderate speaking ability in Spanish. And that impresses me. One of my greatest shames in life is I am not fluent in any language other than English, although I've attempted to learn several. Now, today, Art and I are going to talk about infidelity and detective work. But before we launch into that conversation, here's our sponsorship message. This episode is brought to you by me, Marie Murphy, PhD, Relationship Coaching. I provide shame-free, blame-free, non-judgmental relationship assistance. You can talk to me about the things that seem too messy or weird or stigmatized to share with your best friend or your spouse or even your therapist, including but not limited to matters related to infidelity. To learn more about my work, you can check out mariemurphyphd.com. All right, Art, it's great to have you with us today. Thanks for joining me.
Marie, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk with you. I know that for myself and like many other people, most of what I know about private investigators and the work they do comes from what I have seen on TV or in movies. So what's it actually like when someone calls you up and says they think their partner is cheating on them and they want you to find out for sure? Take us through the process.
So I know you mentioned that it's like TV and what you've seen. It's actually quite opposite because most TV is kind of, shall I say, scripted a little bit, and things that actually happen on a TV show, you're watching for entertainment. In real life, it can be very boring. And the main process is I get a phone call, and say, for example, a woman calls me and she says, my husband is cheating on me. And some of them don't know what to do, and they tell me, this is my first time ever calling a private investigator. So I kind of run them through, the signs, signals, and ask them, hey, has this been happening? Like, for example, has he been spending more time in the bathroom? Does he take his phone with him? Is his phone locked and not letting you get inside of his phone? Especially nowadays with every phone being some kind of smartphone, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, whatever it is. And they have access to that. And other parts of it are also, running questions like, do they have an extra phone somewhere laying around? Some of them actually do, and they get caught with it. But once they answer the questions and I actually tell them, okay, sounds like there are signs of infidelity, then I tell them, okay, this is what we do. They have to give me their information. I have to get pictures. I need to know what they look like in order for me, obviously, to find them.
The suspected cheater, you mean?
The suspected cheater, yes.
Yeah.
We get pictures of them, vehicle information. We need to know exactly what we're looking for. And I have to be honest, I made the rookie mistake when I first started this. And I didn't ask certain specific questions. I didn't even ask for pictures my first time ever out. And I learned that lesson the hard way. And I was following the wrong person, believe it or not.
No.
So it was when I took a picture and sent it to the client, they were not upset, but they were like, wait a minute, that's not my husband. So I learned.
Oh no.
Yeah, you know what they say, you don't make a mistake twice. I never did again. So I always ask for photos, of course, if they can provide it. So, but yeah, so we go out there, we follow, and we take pictures, we take videos of whatever they do. And this is exactly what I explain to the clients as well. And that's basically the gist of it. It's really simple. It's really straightforward as far as the questions I ask and what we do out there. All we do, we follow. Usually I use 2 investigators just for safety reasons. Just in case we do get caught and somebody does approach us, which does happen once in a while. And for safety reasons, we first of all, we always travel in pairs. And I never ever would divulge any information, even if we do get caught by the cheater himself.
Let me ask a few clarifying questions. So let's say I'm cheating on my spouse. Where, without giving away trade secrets, tell me what you can. Like, where would somebody be looking for me? At my place of work? Like, at the gym? Like, at home? How does this work? Like, do you just know all of the things about me because my spouse has already told you all of the things that I do or say that I do?
Pretty much, yes. And one thing I come across to the client, as they know their spouse more better than I do. I mean, it's usually in most cases. But to be more clear and specify, yes, I've caught them all over the place in gyms. I've caught them out in public. I've caught them out in different areas, even in the cars many times.
You mean having
and believe it or, yeah,
an
and believe it or
experience?
not,
Yeah.
there was actually a couple of cases where the wife actually once was a husband and twice were wives. And the story was they basically were at home when the wife goes to sleep. She takes some kind of medication or something. One of my cases, and he would bring over his mistresses to the actual house with the wife sleeping in the bed, and he takes them to the living room and does the dirty deed.
Those must be some excellent sleeping pills.
Yeah.
I think I need me some of those.
Yes.
So how often does this go kind of like, I don't know, in a relatively straightforward manner? Is it typical for you to find what you're looking for pretty quickly?
No, it's not typical. I have had cases where I literally pull up to the scene and both people, the cheater and the mistress, are there making out in front of me. Case closed. 30 seconds, it's done.
Pretty
I have had
straightforward.
that before. Yeah, but no, usually they're hiding. Usually they'll go and pick somebody up. They'll go to a different city, neighborhood, because they don't want their friends to see them. They won't go to any restaurants in the same city that they live. That's one of the no-nos for cheating in most cases. And that's usually how it is. So it would take a lot of following. Sometimes they go to the extent of actually parking in a parking lot and getting into somebody else's vehicle, like a buddy who's supporting it, or even, say, for example, a man who's cheating and the other woman would pick him up and he leaves the car there on purpose. So sometimes that happens as well.
So it sounds like some people go to they're very aware of the fact that they may be detectable, shall we say, whether by an actual detective or just by someone that they know that happens to be in the area. And they go to great lengths to cover their tracks. But other people, it sounds like not so much.
Right. Some of them not so much because they don't know. And the cheaters, they ask a lot of questions, and a lot of the times so do the clients, because they ask their husbands or wives. They ask them, hey, are you cheating on me? Because you're hiding your phone. You do it. So they're tipped off a little bit already.
Okay.
And that makes them paranoid, and they start watching their backs.
Mm-hmm. At what point do you usually have the conversation with the cheater? Like when you quote unquote catch them, or at some other point? Like how does that conversation come about?
Do you mean specifically conversation with the client about the cheater, or face to face with the cheater?
Face to face with a cheater. Like, do you have much of an exchange with them in many cases?
No.
No.
That's the one thing that I try to avoid.
Okay.
Where I try to be invisible. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, sure.
I usually don't talk to the cheaters or anyone that we follow. The only time I ever do, obviously, is if they catch me and they come to me, whether I'm on foot in my car and they're saying, "Why are you following me?" And I just deny it. I tell them that I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not following, and then we leave. And I have people. We have different cars. We'll come out another day. There's two of us out there. One will leave. The other one will continue to follow if they're not caught. So I usually don't talk to the actual cheaters themselves.
Okay. hmm Do people who are cheating on their partners ever hire you to surveil their spouses to see if their spouse is on to what they're doing?
You mean, is there a conflict of interest that where both spouses?
Oh, I didn't
Um,
necessarily mean both spouses from the same couple. I meant like in general, does this ever happen?
uh, what do you mean by that? If you can
I
elaborate.
don't know. I have no idea necessarily why this would happen, but what I'm asking is if there's someone who's cheating on their spouse and wants to know if their spouse is on to them yet, does the cheater ever have you surveil their spouse to see if they have kind of assessed the situation?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, that has happened before. So yes, absolutely. So that's even one thing. Another thing was, there were a few times where I would actually have the mistress call me and ask if the cheater, is actually cheating with some other mistress, and not
Mm,
not only the wife.
okay. So is she the only
So,
other one?
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. So I know we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but have there ever been times when you follow someone for weeks or maybe even longer and it just turns out that there's nothing going on there?
Yeah. My longest case, actually, where there's nothing actually going on. I've been with the client now for about 3 years.
Wow.
It's not every day, right? It's maybe a few times a month, but nothing happens, and I know that this guy's not cheating. I mean, I just know it, and I tell this to the client. I don't hide that fact, and I tell the client, and I say, look, I know you're spending a lot of money on this, and I just want to let you know, I don't think he's cheating. We'll keep doing it because you want to hire me, but I don't think he's actually out there cheating. So yeah, it does happen. It's rare, but it does happen where they're actually not cheating.
Wow. Yeah, it fascinates me that somebody would want to continue to invest their money into surveilling someone that the PI said, look, there's really nothing going on here. But at
Right,
the
and
same
then
time,
then there,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that there's the opposite of that, where I had a client, not any longer, but I had a client for about 2.5 years, and we went out, like, I mean, I would say like a week every month for 2.5 years, and we caught him cheating every single time, sometimes with different women,
hmm
and we gave her pictures of video, and she just couldn't let him go. Like,
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
she had the attachment, right?
Yeah.
And he was cheating on her every time, and she confronted him, and she wouldn't let him go.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I bet you see all kinds of interesting things in terms of people thinking that they want proof, but perhaps not really wanting it once they get it, and or like you just said, getting it and not really doing anything with it, even if they have it.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. But I also know, in addition to having situations where sometimes there's just nothing that comes up, even after quite a bit of surveillance, I know you've also had a few dramatic incidents where you catch the cheaters red-handed and it's a dramatic public event. Could you tell us a story like that, perhaps?
Well, I can tell you two stories that are that were, and to me, pretty dramatic. But one of them, it was actually a husband, or I'm sorry, a wife that was cheating on the husband, and the husband hires me, and we end up following, and we finally follow through the city in San Francisco. We ended up in Golden Gate Park, and we parked our cars, and they parked theirs. They had like a little picnic basket. They had a little spot they picked out, and they go and lay down, and they're having a little picnic and drinks. I believe they had wine or something. I couldn't tell what it was, but looked like wine. And it's middle of the day, sunshine, bright, very nice day. It wasn't nighttime or dark. They didn't have a tent. They had like a little blanket they were sitting on, and they were enjoying their time. Then they start making out, and that led to other things where eventually they actually started having sex in the middle of the daytime with little kids riding their bikes, parents walking with their kids, other people walking by, and actually started to have, now they covered themselves with a blanket, but it was pretty obvious what they were doing. And at some parts, I actually have video of this. At some parts, you can see breasts, you can see butts, you can,
Yeah.
you can actually see naked parts.
Yeah. Anatomy is
so
in full view.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. So that one was pretty dramatic. Another one that I
Wait,
actually did.
hang on. So what was
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
spouse's response when you presented this evidence?
He, I should say, he was at first calm, believe it or not. And he was, I told him, and he was saying, "Oh, I see." And I don't know if he was in a state of shock or what it was, because I actually met him and showed him in person. Usually I'll send a text message, or I'll send, an email with photos, things like that. But
Yeah.
I went in person and I showed it to him, and he was just, "Oh, I see. Okay. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I probably am going to leave her." And about 5 minutes after that, he's like, "What do you think I should do?" And I'm like, I really don't want to give advice.
Yeah.
I really shouldn't give advice.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he just explodes, stands up, and, starts using swear words.
Yeah.
And, not at me, but saying, "I'm going to go get this, B."
Bleep, bleep,
And
bleep, bleep.
exactly.
Yep.
And definitely getting a divorce, and I'm going to show this video and everything to all of her family and everybody, and things like that. So
Yeah.
sometimes I do get that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there are just such heightened emotions associated with all of this kind of stuff, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I interrupted you. You were about to tell another story.
So another story I had was, I would think, a little bit more interesting, because it was a guy who was cheating. It was a boyfriend-girlfriend situation. The girlfriend hires me, and we start following from the boyfriend's house, who's the cheater. And he leaves, gets into his car, he drives a few miles away, and picks up the suspected person that he's cheating with. She comes out, she gets in his car. It looked like her parents, which I later found out they were her parents, get into the car as well, which was quite odd. Why would he be picking up another woman and their parents? So I follow them. They go to a restaurant where it was a huge family gathering for the mistress, I guess you can call it at this point. And they're in the middle of the restaurant, and there's at least 50 people in there, and it's some kind of family event. So I tell my client, and she says, "Okay, great. Where is this? I'm coming there now, and I'm bringing 2 of my girlfriends with me." And I was like, wow, okay. It's kind of like an episode out of Cheaters in a way, the show Cheaters. And I was just standing there with my partner, and we're looking at each other like, wow, so we're not going to be inside when she gets here, because we didn't, she arrives, her 2 friends arrive. She goes inside the restaurant. Her 2 friends stand by the door. The client, the girlfriend, walks right up to her boyfriend in front of all 50 people. The whole restaurant becomes silent, completely silent. And she just plants a huge kiss and starts making out with him in front of everybody. The guy didn't say a word. And she says, "Hey, honey, how are you?" And he doesn't say a word. He stands up, he walks out the door, goes to his car, and drives away, right in front of everybody. Didn't say a word to anybody. So we follow him. We follow him for a few more miles, probably like another 5-6 miles. And he arrives at some house, and another woman comes out and greets him, and he makes out with her and goes into the house with her. So, so we've had a
busy
bunch of
day.
cases. He had a busy day, yeah. So, yeah.
I'm sure that was really something to be there in person and witness.
Yeah, it was. I later found out that the actual girlfriend that hired me spoke to the one at the restaurant, and they actually not necessarily became friends, but became acquaintances, and we're talking about all the indiscretions that he had with the both of them. So,
Yeah, it's quite a thing to have in common. Yeah.
right.
Awesome. So let's say I'm cheating on my partner and I'm paranoid and anxious, and I am not sure if my paranoia is just because I'm crazy or a little, agitated, my anxiety is heightened, or if I actually have cause for concern that I am under surveillance. What are some of the telltale signs that I should be aware of?
If you think you're under surveillance.
Yeah, how do I know if I'm not imagining things?
So I always tell people, everyone nowadays has a smartphone, right? So they have great cameras. Um, One is you should definitely start taking pictures of license plates, especially if you think you're seeing the same vehicle or same person following you.
Okay, so
'Cause some,
two key things are if you see a vehicle follow, like regularly, if you see someone that you recognize regularly who you don't know.
yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
So definitely try to take pictures, try to get their license plate if you see them get into a car. Because I've had people, tell me, I've had the same van follow me. And then when I told them to take pictures, it turned out that it wasn't the same van. It was just different, but they were so paranoid that they were really, really scared. So they, it calmed them down to know that, okay, really, it really wasn't somebody following me.
Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's a good point.
yeah. So same with people, even walking on the street. They see a blue shirt and blue jeans, for example, and pretty much everyone wears a blue shirt or a black shirt and blue jeans or whatever it is, and they think it's the same person because they are paranoid. So I tell them the same thing because in public you're allowed to take pictures of anybody you want. So when I tell them just take pictures and compare, and they do, and it calms them down.
That's a great point. And okay, so that's a good way to distinguish paranoia from justifiable concern. What are some of the signs that you really should be concerned?
So some of the signs you should be concerned are when you actually do see the same vehicle following you, because if that happens, then you should not necessarily take evasive maneuvers, but pull over. See if that car pulls over, you know, behind you. Um, Go around the block 4 times, just in case. And then if you see that, obviously that's a concern. Call the police. You have every right to do that. I'm not saying the police are going to arrest somebody or, do anything bad. Like, for example, I have a license to do it, right? So I'm hired to do something in public. It's legal. So, but the police can, stop you, pull you over, ask you what you're doing. And at least that person feels safe where they feel like, okay, now I know that the police contacted this person. Now I feel a little safer, you know. And that's something that, has happened, and is a concern. Some of the things that you want to look out for also are who's parked in front of your house. Remember those cars because there have been a lot of cases I even had where I would follow the actual client to see who's following the client. So I've had that before. But most of the time it's a car parked in front of your house and they're either casing your house because they want to break in, or it could be, a friend of yours stalking you because, they want to see what your schedule is like, things like that. I mean, I've had the unfortunate case of, you know, well, we can get back to the paranoia part and I can tell you about that case, but, I think the biggest concerns are definitely look behind your back,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely see who's around you and know your surroundings,
Sure.
and it's okay to call the police. It's okay to stop somebody walking down the street and say, hey, I think I'm being followed. Can you help me? It's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What are your rights if you're being followed? I mean, to like throw off a PI essentially.
See, that's the tough part. as long as they're not doing anything to run you off the road or anything illegal,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just, you don't really have any rights,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's public.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you get onto your driveway, you get onto your property, that's a completely different story. They can't follow you there because now they're trespassing. It's against the law. They can't peek into your windows. You know, so anywhere in public, even when you're in your house, if your blinds are wide open and you're doing something there, people can still, even though it's in your house, they can still take pictures of you. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so you know, any reasonable public area or public space, people can still follow you and take pictures of you.
And what about digital surveillance? Do you deal in that realm as well?
So a lot of digital surveillance I don't do too much with, and you're talking about like getting into phones and laptops and seeing who's texting and things like that, right?
I don't even know. This is your area of expertise, not mine.
So yeah, right. So I mean, yes, the digital surveillance part of it. I actually have a company that I refer people to.
Okay.
I used to do it, but it gets really technical, and I don't have the full training for something like that. I know about it, and I can guess what's happening, but I don't want to
Sure.
guess ever. I want to be sure.
Sure. Sure. Makes
So,
sense.
but yes, that does exist. The issue with that is there are many laws that don't allow people to get in. So it would have to go through the courts, subpoenas, you know, search warrants, things like that.
Interesting. Good to know. Okay. Were we going to get back to the paranoia thing? Was there a story you wanted to tell about that?
Yeah, you know, there was an unfortunate incident where there were men, you know, they were a couple, and they had broken up, and one of the women decided to try to get the other woman back. So she started going outside and taking pictures of herself, saying that there's somebody stalking her. But what she was doing was she was taking pictures of herself, and what she had was like the Apple Watch, for example, the iWatch, whatever you call it. You can actually click a button. You can set up your camera up in the window and click a button. It'll take a picture, you know, from your watch. And that's what she was doing in this case. So she was sending these photos saying, look at these photos. Somebody's taking pictures of me. Someone's really stalking me. And there was no stalker. She was doing this on purpose to try to get her ex-girlfriend to take her back. So she hired me to actually find out who the stalker was. And when we told her it was the woman, she confronted her ex-girlfriend and said, look, I'm not trying to be mean, but I know you're doing this. We have video of you actually doing this, actually taking pictures of yourself. And so then about 3 days later, she committed suicide.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh
So
my
that's what I
God.
mean by unfortunate situation, because she wanted to be with her partner that bad.
Yeah.
She committed suicide because she was, you know, caught doing this. So
Yeah. Oh God. The depth of human emotions around romantic relationships never ceases to amaze me. And the confusion that we self-generate around our relationships is continuously a source of amazement for me. And I'm sure
yes,
you see plenty of that too.
yes.
So from your end of the from your end of the binoculars, so to speak, I'm speaking metaphorically here.
Right.
What advice would you have for somebody who suspects that their partner is cheating on them? Are you the first person to call, or do you recommend having a conversation with your partner first? I'm really interested in your perspective on this.
I would what I tell people is they should definitely talk to their partner first. You know, because it can get ugly, right? Especially if they do hire me to go out there and do the job, it can get really ugly. So I tell them to feel it out. I tell
Yeah.
them, you know, let's put it all on the table with their partner, and then, you know, let me see your phone, whatever it is you have to do, because if they're already suspecting somebody's cheating, I got to tell you, it's like 97% of the time they are.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
in my experience.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, I said, you should talk to them first.
Yeah.
Some of them don't want to talk.
Yep.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
They just say, no, I just want to hire you. That's it. You know?
Yeah.
So, and the ones that do talk, usually they call me back later because the guy, of course, denies it, or the woman denies it. And, you know, then we go from there. Sometimes they call me and they thank me because they admitted it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very rare, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are so many fascinating dynamics about what we're afraid to talk about and what we're afraid to disclose, even when we're confronted, and we could go on and on about that. But instead, why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you if they're interested in learning more about your services?
Sure. So you can go to my website, which is foglightpi.com, or you can call me. My number is 415-926-3440, and that is my cell phone, so you can call or text me if you want to be more discreet. Or you can email me, which is foglight@foglightpi.com.
Cool. We'll make sure to get all that written down in the show notes too. Well, thanks so much, Art. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Great. Same. I've had a pleasure being here. This was fun.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.